They did not chain me. That was the first wrong thing. I woke on a surface that was soft, softer than anything I had ever rested on in my life. The air smelled clean, with a faint trace of something I could not name, something almost sweet. My eyes adjusted slowly to the pale light above me, and when my mind caught up to my body, I remembered everything at once. The battle. The explosion that threw me across the ground. The silence after. I was a prisoner. I had been told, since the first day of my training, exactly what captivity felt like. My instructor, Commander Wiesel, had a voice like cracking ice. She stood before us, rows of young warriors all sitting perfectly still, and she told us the truth plainly. She said that an enemy who takes you alive is not being merciful. She said that mercy was a story weak species told themselves. She said that captivity was simply a slower version of the end, dressed up with a few extra steps in between. We believed her. We had no reason not to. She had survived 4 wars and never once been wrong about anything. So I lay on that soft surface, in that pale, clean light, and I waited for the pain to begin. It did not begin. A door opened on the far side of the room. I turned my head, slowly, because 2 of my upper limbs were wrapped in something white, and my body ached deeply in places I had not yet fully checked. A human walked in. He was not large. He was not wearing anything that looked like a weapon. He carried a small case in one hand and a container of liquid in the other, and he moved the way someone moves when they are trying very hard not to startle an animal. He stopped a few feet away from me and said something in my language. The pronunciation was not perfect, but the words were clear enough. He said, "Good morning. I am going to change your bandages. Tell me if I hurt you." I stared at him. He waited. I said nothing, because I did not know what to say. In every scenario I had trained for, a prisoner's first interaction with a captor followed a recognizable pattern. There were questions, there was pressure, there was demonstration of who held power and who did not. There was no version of the script that began with, "Tell me if I hurt you." That sentence did not exist in the language of captivity as I understood it. So I chose silence, which was the safest thing I knew how to do. He nodded as if silence was a perfectly reasonable answer, set down his case, and got to work. His hands were careful, in a way that felt deliberate. He did not pull at the bandages quickly. He did not press on the wounds to test my reaction. He worked slowly, checking each layer before he moved to the next, and the whole time he said nothing at all except, once, a very quiet apology, when something pulled in a way that made me tense. I had not expected the apology. I logged it as suspicious. When he was done, he packed his case, picked up the container of liquid, and placed it near my hand. He said, still in my language, "This is water, close to the right kind for your body. Please drink it." Then he left. I looked at the container for a long time. Then I drank it. The days that followed had a rhythm that I could not make sense of. He came every morning. He checked the wounds. He replaced what needed replacing. Sometimes he asked small questions, not about the war, not about my unit, not about anything useful to an enemy. He asked if the temperature in the room was comfortable. He asked if I was sleeping. He asked, once, with what appeared to be genuine curiosity, whether Keth soldiers dreamed, and then seemed embarrassed for asking, as if it was too personal a question. I found this completely bewildering. I had a deep wound near my secondary respiratory sac. I knew this wound. I had seen it on others. I knew what it meant. Under normal conditions, in the care of my own people's medics, it would have been difficult. Here, with the wrong air, and the wrong gravity, and the wrong hands, it should have been impossible. And yet each morning, the wound looked slightly better than the day before. He was doing something right, and I did not understand how he knew what right was. On the 4th day, I asked him. I kept my voice flat, because I did not want him to hear anything in it. I said, "Why are you keeping me alive?" He looked up from his work. He seemed genuinely puzzled, the way someone looks when they have been asked a question they find obvious. Then he said, "Because you're hurt." He said it the way someone might say that water is wet, simply, without drama, as if the answer required no further explanation. I had no response to that. I spent most of that night thinking about it. There was another human who came in the evenings, young, with a face that showed everything it was feeling all at once, which I found very strange. Keth warriors learn early to show nothing. This one brought trays of food, and always left without saying much. But on the 3rd visit, There was extra food on the tray. Not a little extra. Noticeably extra. I looked at it. I looked at the door where the young human had just disappeared. I ate the extra food. The next evening, it happened again, and the evening after that. On the 6th day, the young one set down the tray and looked at me for a moment, and I looked back, and something passed between us that I did not have a word for. Then they said, very quietly, "Ma'am," and left. I lay still for a very long time after that. In my culture, an enemy does not call you ma'am. The word implies respect. It implies that you are a person worth addressing with care. No one had told this young human to say that. No one would have ordered it. It was simply the word they chose, on their own, in the evening light, before walking away. I checked myself for weapons-grade sentiment, and found, to my alarm, a small and growing quantity of it. I tried to correct this by reminding myself of Commander Yusel's teachings. The humans were unpredictable, she had said, because they were broken. Their empathy was a biological malfunction, a failure of their species to develop properly hardened boundaries between self and other. Fear the ones who smile, she had said, because a smile is just teeth arranged pleasantly. I had been watching the medic for 6 days. He smiled sometimes, not at me usually, but at small things, the way the light changed in the room, or when something he was working on went well. It was not the smile of someone planning something. It was the smile of someone who was simply, quietly, glad to be alive. I did not know what to do with that. The crisis came on the 9th night. I woke in the dark with my chest locked and my body refusing the air. I knew this feeling. It was the secondary infection, the complication that Keth medics feared with respiratory wounds. I had watched a soldier die from it once, in a field 3 rotations from here, and the memory was very clear. I lay still and calculated. I did not call out. Calling out for help was not something I had been taught to do. It was not something I knew how to make my body do. Then the door opened anyway. He ran in. There were lights behind him, and I understood later that the machines in the room had noticed what was happening before I did, and alerted him. But in that moment, all I saw was his face, and his face looked the way a face looks when something is going wrong that the person very much does not want to go wrong. He moved quickly to me, and crouched beside me, and began talking, low and steady, telling me to focus on his voice. He explained what was happening inside my body in simple words. He told me what he was going to do, and why, before he did it, every single step. His hands were still careful, even now, even moving fast. Still careful. At one point, while my vision was fading at the edges, he held his hand close to mine, not grabbing, just close, offering. I reached out and I took it, and I do not have a good explanation for why, except that my body made the decision before my mind could stop it. He did not say anything about it. He just stayed there, solid and warm and present, talking me through the dark. I survived. When the morning came and the crisis had passed, I was furious with myself in the way that only humiliation produces. I had been weak. I had reached for a human hand in the dark, like a hatchling reaching for warmth. He had seen that. He knew. He came in that morning looking tired. He checked on me, did the usual work, and then at the end he said, simply, "You scared me last night." I looked at him. "You scared me," he said again. Not dramatic, not performing anything, just saying a true thing. An enemy does not fear for you. That is a sentence I would have said with complete confidence 9 days ago. An enemy does not sit up monitoring your breathing through the dark hours. An enemy does not run through a door when your chest locks. An enemy does not hold their hand close to yours in case you need it. I realized, slowly, that I had been using the wrong word for him the entire time. In the days that followed, something changed. Not in him, but in me. I stopped waiting for the blade inside his kindness. I stopped cataloging everything he did as potential tactics. I just watched him. The way you watch someone when you have accepted that they are simply what they appear to be, and that reality is strange and large enough to contain them. I asked him one morning, "Were you ordered to be kind to me?" He thought about it carefully before answering. I noticed he always thought carefully before answering. He said, "I was ordered not to mistreat you. Kindness was my own idea." I let that sit in me for a while. When the day came for me to be transferred to a formal facility, he walked with me to the transport. At the door, he stopped and held out his hand, palm up. I knew enough of human customs to understand the gesture. I looked at his hand. I looked at him. I had no idea how to do it. He showed me, slow and without any mockery at all, and then we did it together, his hand and mine, briefly joined. I thought, walking away, about everything Commander Riesel had ever told me about humans. I thought about how she had described them as soft, as broken, as dangerously irrational in their attachment to things that could not help them survive. She was right that they were soft. She was right that they were open in ways that made no tactical sense. She was right that their caring crossed borders, that any sensible species would protect. But she was wrong about what that meant. She thought softness was weakness. She had never met a person who could run through a door in the dark and hold your hand without making it strange. She had never been kept alive, carefully and quietly, by someone who simply decided that was the right thing to do, not because they were ordered to, not because there was anything in it for them, but because you were hurt, and they were there, and for a human, it turned out, that was reason enough. I did not know the word for what he had given me. My language did not have one. I think it was simply this: he had treated me like I mattered, and nothing, in all my years of training and war, had ever been harder to fight than that.